Asha, greetings and goodwill to you all once again, my fellow natural, native, earthly humans the world over. This is yours truly, the Mystic Philosopher, and welcome to part 20, the continuation of my series of talks titled Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free? Now, if you haven't yet watched or listened to part 1 through to part 19, I ask that you please do so before going forward with this part 20, or that you do so as soon as possible. You might be able to learn something, or be reminded of or about something, or at the very least, you may get something to think about. And please note that I did not say that by listening to yours truly, the Mystic P, you will learn something, but that you may learn something. The truth be told, these talks, these presentations are definitely not for everyone. I am well aware of the possibility, if not the fact, that some of you, my listeners, might be offended by the truth, or more correctly, by the facts therein. But as the late Robert Nesta Marley said in one of his most famous songs called Jaliv, and I quote, "The truth is on offense, but definitely not a sin," unquote. And as the late Dale Carnegie said, those convinced against their will is of the same opinion still, and the record will show that I am not a con. And neither am I trying to con or convince anyone. I'm just sharing another perspective on a lot of things. Now, in the last episode, episode 19, to be precise, of Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free? I started doing a recap of some of the topics that I have covered, and the facts, the insights, and some of the thought-provoking perspectives that I have shared with you thus far. And in this presentation, I will continue doing the same. You no doubt will remember me sharing with you, explaining to you, and telling you in one or more of my previous episodes that one of the reasons why Alkebulan, aka Africa, is not yet free from the clutches and vice grip stronghold of colonialism and imperialism, and why, even though it is one of, if not arguably, the richest continent on the planet Earth in terms of its youth and human resources and its natural minerals and other natural resources, yet it is still considered to be one of the poorest continents with one of the highest poverty rates in the world. And why its progress and development are so slow, and its people, our fellow African brothers and sisters, have experienced and are experiencing such hardship, such poverty, such disrespect by most of the world, and such high incidence of political unrest, etc. You will no doubt remember me sharing with you that it is primarily, these things are happening primarily because of its old lack of vision, half to three-quarter dead, arrogant, selfish, greedy, mentally and physically impotent political leaders that are in power and that are holding on to power while masquerading as if they truly care for and truly represent our people, when in essence and in all practicality, they are nothing but the puppet servants and footstools of the imperialists and colonizers that are both internally and externally raping and exploiting the continent and our people of their wealth and above all their dignity. And just as a preamble to the main points that I will address in this episode, let me quickly quote from an article on the Outreach International website subtitled A Closer Look at the Causes and Effects of Poverty in Africa. And I quote, in 2015, the United Nations committed itself to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs for short, in its effort to end global poverty. Its goal include improvements in health, education, equity, economic development, and environmental improvement by 2030. However, at this point in time, Africa is not on track to meet these goals. Africa has the highest extreme poverty rates globally, with 23 of the world's 28 poorest countries, which have extreme poverty rates of above 30%. Using the poverty line of $1.90 per day, Africa's extreme poverty rate was recently estimated to be about 35.5%. This rate is 6.8 times higher than the average for the rest of the world. Unquote. Now, from my perspective, to the ambitious African youths with vision, not the whole half-dead one them, but the ambitious youths with vision, with zeal and enthusiasm, this is grossly unacceptable. However, the evidence will show that most, if not all, of the aforementioned politicians and political leaders, who answer to every beck and call of their imperialist and colonialist puppet masters, that both discipline them and reward them sometimes handsomely for their obedience and loyalty. This is acceptable. They accept it. This is acceptable to them. And they have no problem seeing their own people live in extreme poverty, as long as they and their family are safe and secure, protected. And the poor and suffering people, their own people, pose no danger or physical harm to them. Now, you may also remember me using an analogy. What should happen and what eventually happens to old lions that are totally incapable of leading, providing and protecting their prides. But out of arrogance, ignorance and greed, selfishness and hunger and thirst for perpetual power and leadership, they still will not gracefully surrender and walk away with their personal dignity intact. But they will have to be humiliated and violently and forcefully removed, and sometimes even being deleted by a younger or by a young, strong, mature, and deserving lion, and have his kingdom and pride seized. Well, quite unfortunate for those stubborn old folks or those stubborn old fools that are masquerading as leaders, African leaders. That is exactly what is happening right now on the continent of Africa to them, and that is what will no doubt continue to happen all across the continent of Africa in order to facilitate the progress and development of the entire continent of Africa and facilitate the progress and development of the awakened, free-thinking, and visionary-minded young people of Africa. Regrettably, regrettable or not, but the evidence has shown that the latest victim of stubbornness, selfishness, greed, hunger, and perpetual power, or hunger for perpetual power, and his stupidity is the 83-year-old president and political puppet leader of the Ivory Coast, who it has been alleged to have been humiliated and removed from power, and rightfully so, by his own military force. Another stubborn old lion, or stubborn old leader, an imperialist and colonizer's shameless puppet that I am predicting will be removed by either of the following methods. Our ancestors, our most honorable ancestors, will retire him by whatever means necessary, example by taking him home to rest in peace with them. or letting him come to his senses before it's too late, and hand over power to someone that is young and capable of true leadership of South Africa and of the South Africans. Some young and whose leadership will speedily and uncompromisingly fully liberate Africa and fellow Africans from the clutches of imperialism and colonialism, and thereby earning and maintaining due respect for us all the world over, for Africans the world over. And I speak of no other than the political leader, the old political leader and current president of South Africa, President Ramaphosa. From my perspective, his poor, humiliating, and extremely embarrassing appearance and performance at one of the imperialist and colonialist government houses called the United States White House, while there on official visit, meeting with one of the imperialist and colonialist president, namely President of the United States, Donald Trump, is more than evident that he needs to go, that he has to go, and that he should gracefully step down, or at the very least step aside and allow a competent young youth, to run and govern the country. If at all he really cared for the people, then he would share his experience and help a young and more capable youth run the place. Other than what I saw in a video where the French President Emmanuel Macron publicly humiliated and publicly racially abusing and embarrassing the former ousted Burkina Faso president, a guy by the name of Roch Marc Christian. I have never seen so much fun being made, especially by the press, the media houses, of an African president meeting with an imperialist president, especially an imperialist United States president. If his intention, Ramaphosa's intention, was, as it is alleged, it was to meet with President Donald Trump on an equal and respectful footing as president to president of two very powerful countries. Well, not only was he unwise to think or believe that the imperialist Donald Trump would ever in the least see and respect him as an equal partner, but in no subtle way he humiliated him. Some media report was very sympathetic and kind, if not themselves syllogistically further insulting him. But they were, let's say, sympathetic and kind by saying that President Donald Trump, ambushed him, President Ramaphosa, and make him look just like a puppet. But like a black puppy dog that was spoken down to and shown a corner in the White House to sit, behave himself, and maybe it would get a bone. If at all this South African President Ramaphosa was at all fully capable and wise, he would have known that President Donald Trump is a strong man, a strong imperialist, and the White House is his strong man's house, aka his strong imperialist house, from whence, like an emperor, he reigns. And that you cannot expect to enter a strong man's house to correct him, to discipline him, to straighten him out. For according to the imperialist's own race, history, and holy book, commonly called the Christian Holy Bible, and I quote, in fact, no one can enter a strong man's house without first tying him up. Then he can plunder the strong man's house. Unquote. This is from the Adamic Race History book according to Mark 3 and verse 27, the New International Version. Now, if at all he, Ramaphosa, knew that President Donald Trump is a strong man, was a strong man, he's a strong man, and that he was not, Ramaphosa, was not capable of tying him up mentally, spiritually, physically, intellectually, and otherwise. Before he entered the White House, if he knew that, then his common sense, if at all activated, should have told him that he should not have gone there and ended up leaving looking like a jackass. Now, I ask that you please join me, my friends, for the continuation. Please join me in part 21 for the continuation of Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free? In the meantime and between time, here's willing that you be more. In your becoming, be more and much, much more. And definitely, don't be less. Let no one be less you. I'll explain that for you sometimes in the future. Don't be less, aka bless. For I am the mystic philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say. Thanks again for watching.